Bride pays for their car payments. They earned like a VIP status.
I know she's very good at she's a couponer, like she watches everything. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, you guys? That was the interview with the friends, right? And he said that he knows that she was very good. You know, she was a couponer and everything. She really watched everything carefully. And his wife said that, you know, one of the MLMs was paying for their car. Really? Let's keep listening in here.
She had a part-time job at children's place, so she could get discount, like maybe just like so she could get discounts on clothes.
Oh, that's interesting. She had a part-time job. Interesting. That doesn't fit with all the other stories we were told. Remember, she was a retired nurse. Yeah. Okay.
And I know that they would go on trips with Bride that were paid.
Oh, they went on trips that were paid for. Does anyone believe that?
Dominican Republic.
Oh, really? She went to trips every year.
She went to
focused on trying to win.
She tries to have Chris go on the bigger trips, like early the night one. But sometimes I think she just does like convention, maybe like smaller trips that she goes on. But I know her and Chris, before she went to visit her mom during the summer, her and Chris and got to San Diego on a trip for a few days. Hannah mentioned they were going to Aspen this weekend on Friday.
Ooh, interesting. They were leaving for Aspen on Friday, yet they didn't have any money at all. This was the Friday of the tragedy. They were supposed to be leaving for Aspen on Friday. Oh my goodness.
Shanann had texted Hannah and asked if she could babysit the girls again on Friday because they were going to Aspen for the weekend, and whoever was watching the girls couldn't watch them until 7, and they wanted to earlier because of traffic. So she was wondering if Hannah could babysit like 4.
They were getting a divorce. She left for 5 weeks in the summer. They were divorcing, and she was planning a trip to Aspen. Okay.
4:30 to 7. And we kind of asked me, fine. She would just have to pick you up because I won't be home from work until 5, but then I can pick you up at 7. And she told Shanann that, and Shanann said, okay, well, we'll talk about it, later in the week or whatever as it gets closer. And I don't know if the Aspen trip was.
Well, she was just in North Carolina for like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Before Arizona.
Without Chris. With her parents. But I think it came at the end on Facebook. I saw that like the beach and Chris was there. So.
You didn't know what that was about? I don't know. No idea. I remember when they were here on Father's Day, she said she was going to be gone.
Yeah.
So invite Chris over so he's not bored at home.
Yeah. And I don't know. She's never gone on a trip that long before.
But it's not abnormal.
She hasn't? She's never gone on a trip that long before? What about the postings for Indianapolis for an entire month? I don't know.
And then she had a friend from Hawaii come out for like 6 months or something.
Ooh. A friend from Hawaii came for 6 months. Weren't we told that was for 1 month? A friend from Hawaii came for 6 months, according to the friends who were interviewed by the police back in August of 2018. How's everyone doing tonight? Yes, the recording sucks for sure. Well, I think that's interesting. In the same recording, in the same interview, I heard the friend say that he went to the house to pick Chris up to take Chris to the airport. All this time, we thought it was the other way around. We thought that Chris was supposed to take a friend to the airport. But either way, the friend told the police officer that Christopher Watt's wife refused to allow him to leave until he finished, doing his chores down in the basement. They were divorcing. It seems pretty obvious by now, doesn't it? That marriage was over long before Christopher Watt's wife was escorted to North Carolina. Because evidently flying alone with the children was more than she could handle. Let's be real. Did she give Bella and Cece Benadryl and Tylenol on the flight? She posted as if she was a mom traveling all by herself with a couple of kids, but she wasn't. She had help. And in my opinion, she had a lot of help through the years with other people moving right in. I believe the people who have contacted us to say that there was an open CPS case, that she was the subject of investigation for medical abuse of both Bella and Cece. We were told that she was not allowed to take the children to the doctor or to any medical care provider. We were told that she was not allowed to be alone with Bella and Cece. We were told that she was not allowed to drive Bella and Cece anywhere. We were told that the girls had to be in daycare and that if they weren't there when the daycare center opened in the mornings after being taken there by somebody else driving them, that the daycare center was obligated to contact the authorities immediately. Isn't it interesting that they were missing on Monday morning? Isn't it interesting that there were phone calls made to the daycare center? Every single thing that we've been told by people who are insisting there was an open CPS case fits with the information that we've learned over the last 5 years. In fact, it fits with the information that many of us could see very clearly already back in 2018. Why weren't Bella and Cece removed from that home? Why weren't Christopher Watts and his wife investigated fully, both of them? Why wasn't Christopher Watts' wife arrested for medical child abuse? She posted hideous crap on social media. Hideous crap. Showing the girls crying hysterically, calling them monsters, claiming that Bella was screaming when she was actually hiding out in the closet, shoveling in one marshmallow after another. It's been over 5 years. Can we open up the discussion about why on earth poor little Bella and Cece were not protected from their mother? over the last 5 years, so much energy has been poured into trying to pretend that Cindy Watts was some sort of culprit. It isn't true. In fact, Christopher Watts' wife was very close to Cindy Watts. Yet look at the energy that has been used to try to smear Cindy Watts' name. Look at the energy that has been used to try to present Christopher Watts' wife as if she was some sort of saint. She was not a saint. Was she under investigation for child abuse? Is it true that in December of 2016 that the hospital had suspicions against her and that a case with Child Protective Services was open? That's what we've been told. Is it true that there was a case opened even before Cece was born? Is it true the stories we've been told about Christopher Watts' wife hitting little Cece in the parking lot at Walmart? Is that true? Why on earth was she planning a trip to Aspen? The marriage was over. According to her, the marriage was over. Did she suddenly realize that her backup plan wasn't going to happen? Did she find out that she maybe had already smoked through that $10,000 that, according to Cindy Watts, disappeared? According to Cindy, that $10K never made it to the bank. Her son took out $10,000 from his retirement account in order to save the house after learning in March of 2018 that his wife had stopped making the house payment in December of 2017. So, if it's true that that $10,000 disappeared, where did it go? Was that her little nest egg for when she divorced? Did she smoke through it? Did she think that telling him that she was pregnant might change his mind about the divorce after she already told a lawyer she was divorcing? She told the hairdresser, the hairstylist, she was getting a divorce and looking forward to it. So why was the narrative so ridiculous back in August of 2018, trying to make it sound like she was some sort of coupon clipper? Are you kidding me? She's probably the furthest thing from ever being a coupon clipper. There you go, Paul. Maybe it was in another suitcase. Why has it taken so long for us to feel, I guess, not feel, is that the word? Yeah. For us to actually feel that we can discuss this case. Because you guys know what we've been through. We've been getting attacked simply for asking questions and stating the obvious and forming our own opinions. The poor little Bella and Cece sure as hell deserve better than what they got. Why has it taken over 5 years? Well, I'll tell you why. Because there are some evil people on the planet. Evil people Evil people who care about trying to make a quick buck. And they don't mind trying to use tragedies, I guess, to try to make a quick buck. I think some of the evil people created chaos and confusion and created a false narrative that there were terrible people who were attacking the families. Do you remember that first few months when it was over and over again? Respect the families. Respect the families. While they were bashing Ronnie and Cindy Watts. Remember that crap? Respect the families? And even over 5 years later, there are still people who are taking little bits of money to make videos where you can tell they're doing nothing but reading a script. They don't know the case. And they're still making videos, reciting the BS. There was one uploaded today that I listened to a couple minutes of, and the lady said, you know, how she worked at the hospital. Oh, bullshit. How she had such difficult pregnancies. Bullshit. How she was so successful. Bullshit. Even that interview of the friends, you can tell the friends are thinking that they were financially successful. Bullshit. And over 5 years later, the channel creators that are putting up videos and doing live chats still don't even know the case. Because I don't think it's the case they care about talking about. I think what they care about doing is putting up videos for cash. And then, of course, you have the people who are keeping the fight going and keeping the fundraisers going too. It's all so absurd. The drama and the chaos just keeps churning, right? So that people aren't discussing the issues of this case that are simply glaring. We're talking about a case where the mother of 2 small children had some sort of weird rectal thermometer fetish. Who took rectal temps regularly, at least daily, and then took pictures of her children when they would try to take the rectal temps of their baby dolls. That is not okay on any level. It's actually very disgusting. And the fact that she was doing it right out in the open on social media and nobody put a stop to it is alarming. We're talking about a woman who announced on a video that she had just given both small children amoxicillin, prednisone, and lots of Tylenol. Lots of Tylenol is not the appropriate dosage. Nowhere on the Tylenol label will it say lots of Tylenol. And if you're giving your child the appropriate dose, you would never describe the dose as being lots of. And you certainly wouldn't be smiling big into the camera because you know your kids are about to pass out. Right in plain sight, she was drugging those children every evening at 6:30 p.m. Right in plain sight. How many people knew she was doing that and did nothing at all to put a stop to it? Familial Mediterranean fever? What was her IQ? Google was born long before she died. Did she have a problem with her reading, with comprehension? There's no way in hell those girls had familial Mediterranean fever. And the chances of both girls having some sort of rare disease is ridiculous. In fact, the chances of both girls having asthma are, in my opinion, nil. I don't think they had asthma. I think they had a problem breathing whatever crap she was putting in the nebulizer. Take a look at those videos. Who is taking care of Bella and Cece? Their father is, that's who. Who is feeding them? Who on earth is getting them ready for bed, helping them with their baths, packing their lunches? Who do the girls turn to when they're hungry and thirsty and cold, or when they're afraid? Like in that Christmas video, when it appears that they suddenly realize that their daddy wasn't there. They were alone with their mother. They wanted to know where their daddy was. And they were both screaming hysterically. And what was her reaction? It was like she didn't even know how to deal with their tears or their crying. She set one of them on Santa's lap and said, "I'll be right here. I'll stay right here." And then she took off. And the kids screamed some more. There was a disconnect going on. And I think what happened is I think the kids weren't used to being alone with her. And I think there may have been times in the past when they were alone with her and things didn't go well. Why on earth has it taken so long? Why on earth has it taken so long for people to be able to discuss this case and to care first and foremost about the fact that poor little Bella and Cece were not safe? Their own grandmother worried about them constantly. Their grandmother worried about them and her son for years. She said that they walked on eggshells around her daughter-in-law. She said nobody wanted to set her off. Set her off? She said that when her son called her and her husband, and told them that his wife was missing and his daughters were missing, that she thought to herself, oh, brother, here she goes again. She thought to herself, well, they'll be back. That's just her daughter-in-law showing her son who's boss. That's just her daughter-in-law jerking her son around again. Cindy wasn't surprised to hear the news. She also knew about the divorce. She and Ronnie had both volunteered to fly out to Colorado to help. To help? Well, you know my theory. I think the day that Christopher Watt's wife and children disappeared was the day that they were supposed to vacate the house. I don't think that Christopher Watt's wife was supposed to go back to the house at all. I think that whole thing with her planning a weekend in Aspen is a symptom of something far more serious, a condition than we've even discussed yet. I think she was delusional times 10. And just hearing that in the interview of the friends, that nurse moved right in for 6 months. 6 months. What was really going on? Why would a nurse need to move right in for 6 months? What was really going on when she spent a month in Indianapolis in late spring of 2016? What was really going on when, after returning home from her month in Indianapolis, she began to post regularly, repeatedly, that both kids are sick again? I scoured through all of her posts and I didn't see any of that going on before her month in Indianapolis. And then, within how many months? A nurse moved in for 6 months? Just previous to the 1 month in Indianapolis. 5 months, 6 months, 7 months previous? Prior to that month in Indianapolis, they walked away from over $70,000 in unsecured debt, including student loans. And we know how that works. Student loans you don't walk away from in a bankruptcy. But Christopher Watt's wife did. And you know the standard. That can only be done if there is just no hope at all of the person ever being able to pay off the debt. Why would she have been deemed as being incapable of ever paying off, what was it, like 10 or 12 grand in student loans? Why would she have been deemed incapable of paying back that amount? Because remember, she was only 34, or so we were told. I don't believe it. Remember, she was a retired nurse, or so we were told. Remember, she was successful. I think that whatever she was in Indianapolis for was the precursor to childhood medical abuse. I think she attempted to harm herself. And I think that after her stint in Indianapolis, that she shifted from being Munchausen to Munchausen by proxy. Don't get me wrong, I think she was already harming the girls before that time. But I think she became a full-blown case of Munchausen by proxy after she came back from Indiana. I think in July of 2016, when she started posted that both kids are sick again, I think from that point forward, poor little Bella and Cece were in danger. I think their lives were miserable. I think they were being harmed by their mother. And then in December, a half a year later, they both ended up in the hospital. 2 little girls at the same time, both needing to be hospitalized. And what I was told, and I think it is pretty reasonable to believe it, what I was told was that when they were both being released from the hospital, that suddenly Bella and Cece became violently ill. And the doctors ordered certain testing and discovered that somebody had given them terribly high doses of some pretty bad stuff. I was told that the level in Bella's blood was much higher than the level in Cece's blood. Cece was sick, but Bella was far sicker. I was told that the hospital immediately reported Christopher Watt's wife for medical abuse. I was told there was a month-long investigation and some finagling with lawyers. And that what resulted from the month-long finagling was a family plan to keep little Bella and Cece safe. And the family plan consisted of a few basic rules. Both children had to be in daycare full-time, as I mentioned already. Their mother was not allowed to drive them anywhere in the car or to travel with them alone. They had to be at the daycare center at opening time in the morning, or the authorities had to be contacted immediately by the daycare center. And she was not allowed to take them to any doctor or emergency room again. I was told that after about a year or so of that family plan being in place, that they did allow 1 hour per day, the first hour in the morning, for her to be alone with Bella and Cece. She still couldn't drive the girls, is what I was told. That restriction was still in place. But she could, dress them for school, and whoever then was her driver for the children, I bet you probably at taxpayers' expense, was to be there to take the children to the preschool on time. Think about it. Do you think it's possible that there was a paid caregiver to supervise Christopher Watt's wife? Do you think it's possible that the paid caregiver, I don't know, hypothetically speaking, may have been planning to get married in the summer of 2018 and said, enough of that? I need time off? Do you think it's possible then that she was escorted to North Carolina by her father so that there would be somebody supervising the children? Do you think it's possible that she wasn't supposed to come back from North Carolina? Because remember, it was March of 2018 when she said she was getting divorced. It was December of 2017 when she stopped making the house payments. It was March of 2018 when the $10,000, according to Cindy Watts, disappeared. And then all of a sudden, poof, she told Christopher Watts she was pregnant again. Really? And then all of a sudden, poof, she was texting her friends, I'm doing air quotes when I say friends, saying that she asked Christopher Watts if he wanted her to end the pregnancy. Saying that whenever he would say anything at all, when she tried to talk to him about their relationship, that all he would say was he was not going to lose Bella and Cece. Why would he lose Bella and Cece? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I think what happened is when they went to North Carolina, I think that the protective services in North Carolina was on the ball. And I think they wrote up some pretty heavy-duty reports about what was going on. And I think that court hearing that was coming up, scheduled for right after the tragedy occurred, I think at that court hearing, her parental rights would have been terminated. I think they were already at risk. I think she was already at risk of losing her parental rights. And not only that, I think that she was probably going to be prosecuted for medical abuse. You tell me, why on earth would somebody who claimed to have high-risk pregnancies and who claimed to have endometriosis and who claimed to have lupus and who claimed to have leaking store-bought boobs and who claimed to have fibromyalgia and who claimed to have who knows whatever else she claimed to have. You tell me, why didn't she go to the doctor when she said she was pregnant? Was she 13 weeks along or was she 15 weeks along? Does anyone even know? How much did the fetus weigh? Supposedly, who knows? Because you want to know something? I'm not sure I believe any of that gibberish about any fetal tissue. 4.2 ounces. Yet look at the photo they used. Her standing sideways with a little belly on her. The interesting part about that photo is it was taken 3.5 years before she disappeared. I think the tragedy happened just days before she was about to lose her parental rights to Bella and Cece. And I think she was going to be prosecuted. I think the truth was coming out. And I think the truth was far worse than anything about how terrible their financial situation was, or how she was not really successful at all, or how they were losing the house, or how the marriage had been over already for probably a year or more. I think that she knew that her house of cards had already fallen down. I don't believe that Christopher Watts suddenly lost his temper. I don't believe it at all. Christopher Watts told Cindy, and Cindy told me, that he decided he was going to take responsibility for what happened. Is that how a guilty person talks? Or is that how a person talks who has been groomed and conditioned to be blamed for whatever goes wrong? And I don't mean by his parents. I think he was groomed and conditioned by his zany, out of control wife to blame himself every time she lost her temper. Remember, Cindy told us that people walked on eggshells around her daughter-in-law. And remember, Cindy talked with us about the day that her daughter went crazy at her house shortly before the tragedy occurred. And when I asked Cindy, why didn't you dial 911? She said she never thought of it. She paused and she was like, she never thought of it. Why didn't she think of it? She said her daughter's, or her daughter, not her daughter, her daughter-in-law had eyes that were crazy. She said she was absolutely afraid of her daughter-in-law that day. The children who were there, including Bella and Cece, the children who were there were hiding from her because she was so scary. Cindy grabbed her grandchildren and went running out the door. She was absolutely afraid of her own daughter-in-law. Why weren't Bella and Cece removed immediately? Is that why Cindy didn't call? Was that normal from time to time? Because remember, the day that Cindy and Ronnie heard that their daughter-in-law and grandchildren were missing, remember what Cindy thought? Oh, here she goes again. Hey, Shrimp. Shrimp is here. Hey, Miss CD. ¿Cómo está? Paul says, was it because of the antipsychotic meds she couldn't drive? I think she couldn't drive because of her behaviors. Remember, didn't she drive through a stop sign one time with Bella in the car? I think it was her own behaviors. I think that the girls were not safe to be alone with her. I think there's a possibility there was a history of self-harm. And I think it was part of the, protection family plan to insist that she not be allowed to drive or to travel alone with the children, or to drive, period, if the kids were in the car. Hey, Private Pirate. Baby T says, I always wonder if she and the kids would still be alive if they didn't go home for 7 weeks. I actually wonder why she went back to Colorado, but that's a really good question. Could it be that she kind of went over the edge when she went back to North Carolina? Because if you look at that photo of her, she looks like she's suffering big time. But Baby T, I think the marriage was already over before she left Colorado to go to North Carolina. I think the marriage was already done. All these people who are making videos going on and on about the supposed girlfriend, they're missing a very important piece to the puzzle. that marriage was already over before she left for North Carolina, at least 2 or 3 months before, and I think even longer, much longer. But she said so herself in March of 2018. The marriage was done. I don't think he was cheating on her at all. In fact, I think it was the other way around. And I think that when she told him she was pregnant, which I don't think he necessarily believed, and as far as I know, so far we haven't heard of any evidence that she ever saw an OBGYN. So I guess why would he believe she was pregnant, right? But according to what he said to his mother, if she was pregnant, according to what he said to his mother, she didn't get pregnant by him. Oh, that's right, Shrimp. She told the police that she wasn't going to slam on the brakes with the baby in the back. So, yeah, good choice. Good choice. Just go ahead and run the stop sign or run the stoplight. Yeah. I think she was zany. I really think she was zany. And I think that that situation with the police officer may have been what could have triggered an open CPS case back when Bella was a baby. And you know the whole thing about Baby Wise? I don't believe it for a second that she ever did Baby Wise. I think what happened was that there was evidence that the babies were left in their cribs screaming. And I think somewhere along the way they came up with Baby Wise as some sort of an excuse. Okay, let me see this comment here. Shrimp says that Lori Daybell was also appointed cameras in the home to monitor the children through the court. I agree completely, Shrimp. I think that there were cameras throughout the house, and whoever her little guardians or supervisors or whatever you want to call them, or even the caseworkers, I don't know, but somebody was responsible, I think, for monitoring her every move. I don't think we can even imagine the condition she was in. I think there would be times where she could, with proper medication and proper supervision, create one of those videos. Enough. She could make it through enough to create one of those videos. But I don't think that was her norm. I think her norm was being far more agitated and disturbed. And I think she probably had a full-time caregiver responsible for supervising her. Not just by the cameras. I think the cameras would have served to help protect whoever a paid caregiver or a paid monitor or a paid supervisor would be in the home. And there's another case too, Letitia, that Letitia one with Gannon. She said something about cameras too, and she said something about needing permission to keep him home from school. So there is something to that camera thing. Exactly, Shrimp. Her norm wasn't even close to normal. But I think that while it may appear that she was always on social media, I don't think so. I think there were a lot of times where she was down for the count for weeks on end. I think when she was able to do those videos, that they probably had her doing 6 or 8 of them at a time. And then I think somebody else actually had their hand and passwords in her accounts. Cindy Watts told us how she was harassed on social media long before the tragedy occurred. She was harassed on social media before the wedding. I don't think she was harassed only by her daughter-in-law, though I do believe her daughter-in-law was harassing her. I think just like what we've seen with this case over the last 5 years, I think there was somebody in Christopher Watts' wife's life who kept stirring the pot, who did not want Cindy Watts to be close to Cindy Watts' son's wife. Just like what we've seen happening over the last 5 years. Oh, this one's fighting with that one. That one's fighting with this one. Say bad things. Oh, this one's picking on that one and whatever. And we know it's just a handful of people stirring the pot, constantly stirring the pot with one hand. They're in the kitchen stirring the pot with one hand. Well, they have the other hand palm up, expecting to be paid. Turmoil, chaos, confusion evidently sells. But think about it. Who didn't want Cindy Watts to be at the wedding? And then who appeared to color her hair and to style her hair, or to have her hair styled, and to dress and to even pose as if she was trying to copy Cindy Watts? Who on earth would have benefited by Chris Watts' entire family not going to the wedding? Who would have held such a grudge against Cindy Watts? It wasn't Christopher Watts' wife. Christopher Watts' wife was close to her mother-in-law on the days that she could be close to anybody. Christopher Watts' wife was very close to Cindy Watts when she could be. Does that make sense? Cindy shared with us that it was difficult for Christopher Watts' wife to be friendly toward her when she was around her own mother. Almost like there was a rule that she couldn't be nice to Cindy too. So Cindy, out of being the nurturing, kind person that she is, understood that. She saw it happening. So she gave her daughter-in-law whatever space she needed so that she didn't have to have such conflicting moods and feelings and confusion. So what's happening? Somebody was attacking Cindy before the wedding, right before the wedding. And then during the 5 weeks in North Carolina, somebody was attacking Cindy again. And you remember the whole nut meltdown? Did you know that Christopher Watts' wife was on the phone with her mother right before the nut meltdown? Did you know that? She was on the phone with her mother right before the nut meltdown, and then she was on the phone with her father right after the nut meltdown. Okay, let's just say she actually was 34 years old, even though I think most of us pretty much have figured out she was probably more like 40 or 42 or something. Probably 42, right? Well, just for, grins and giggles, let's pretend that she was actually 34 years old. I don't believe it, but let's say she was. At 34 years old, are you on the phone with your mother saying, Mommy, they're ganging up on me. I'm getting tag teamed. That's what she said. She was getting tag teamed. They were gaining up on her. 34 years old. And then are you on the phone after totally going ballistic and scaring everyone in the house and watching your mother-in-law run out the door, grabbing all the grandkids to run away from you? Then are you on the phone to your daddy saying, get me the hell out of here now? 34 years old, highly successful. Where was her car? And I know she was on vacation, but guess what, folks? If you're going to be on vacation, and personally, I don't think she was on vacation. I think she was relocated. I think she was relocated to be supervised. I think, as I've said 100 times, a million times, that marriage was over. I don't think she had a car because I don't think it was safe for her to drive. How many times have we heard that she had a Lexus? Bullshit. No, she didn't. It was a leased vehicle in Christopher Watt's name. I don't think she was able to drive because I think she was a lot worse than we can even imagine. Oh, Shrimp Cocktail, you're something. Shrimp Cocktail says, stirring the gluten-free, authentic Italian shit pot. Over 5 years later, and we're still seeing bullshit smear videos against Cindy Watts. We're still seeing bullshit videos, newly uploaded videos, saying how she was, not Cindy, but how Christopher Watts' wife was such a hard worker, and how she worked at the hospital, and how she was just such a good mom. Really? Do good moms dose their kids up with medications at 6:30 p.m. and stuff them into a dark bedroom and lock the door? Do good moms make their children sick? Do good moms make videos saying, yeah, both girls were in the emergency room last night. One of them had pneumonia. I can't remember what the other one had. She'll just have to get through it. Is that a good mom? I don't think so. Sorry, my opinion. I don't think so. Are we thinking she got her license revoked? No, I think what we're thinking is that she was not allowed to drive the children anywhere. That was part of the family plan, to be able to try at least to protect Bella and Cece. FR thinks, hold on here. FR thinks that too. Remember when he was talking about what angle she was playing? He texted her about Esther be missing. Everyone has angles like broken glass. Oh. You mean like, yeah, the family who was never on social media, right? How they were still talking with Chris's sister to find out what angle. Is that what you're talking about? I'll never figure it out why on earth any family would fly all the way to Colorado to stand at the end of the driveway of a tragedy house and to obviously contact reporters and say, hey, come, because I'm going to read a little something to you. And then to stand there and say that they are not on social media when in fact they were. By that time, there had already been a lot of crappy stuff posted. And there were also a lot of fundraisers, weren't there? Shrimp, she definitely looked pregnant at the wedding, but who was the daddy? I'm not sure if, well, no, because I think I'm not answering for Shrimp. I'm just answering my opinion. In my opinion, she was pregnant when she met Christopher Watts. I think those were the twins that we've been told she was pregnant with. And I think at the time of the wedding, it was a different pregnancy, of course. And I don't think that was a multiple birth, but I think that all three children, I think there was a financial reward for her to deliver them. I'm not so sure that babies were taken away by her choice. I have been told by people who claim to know that the twins were actually taken away from her. I just thought of something too. Remember when she was pregnant with Bella, how she was doing that blog? I think, with pictures and how she felt and everything. And she was probably going on and on about her high risk pregnancy, right? Which bullshit. But she was posting regularly. And then all of a sudden, at 32 weeks, poof, she didn't post again. Well, those of us in this chat who are moms, we know you don't talk less about the pregnancy the closer you get to delivery. You talk more about the pregnancy. I think when she was 32 weeks along, I think she had some sort of psychotic break. And I think that probably she was on the radar for CPS at that point in time. I think she was already on the radar in North Carolina, and I think that was part of why she moved to Colorado. I think she was already being watched very closely when it came to babies and pregnancies and adoptions in North Carolina. Baby T, that's a really good point. Poor little Bella. Poor little Bella. Benadryl and Tylenol at 6:30 p.m. Stuffed in a dark room with a mind-altering wave machine blaring. Think about it. Bella and Cece supposedly had asthma, and they locked them in the bedrooms? Seriously? With a loud wave machine with a bunch of big blankets? Asthma? What would have happened if those girls would have woken up in an asthma attack in the middle of the night? Oh, look at this. 1 hour and 4 minutes. We're going to take off now, you guys. But I'll try to hop on tomorrow night. If not, it'll be Sunday for sure. So everyone have a great rest of the night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night, everyone.